Hello and welcome back to the Esri UK Housing Tutorial series. In this video, we're going to be symbolising our assets to get a better understanding of the data and visualise building extent, green areas, roads and more. We're also going to explore land ownership surrounding our housing association's land. We'll be using the same tools as in the last video, and it should take around 20 minutes to follow through all three videos in the Getting Started series. To start, this video picks up where the last one ended. So you should have an ArcGIS project with your housing association's land ownership and assets identified on the map. Now let's look at this symbology in a bit more detail and rename some of the fields so it's easier to understand. You can use out-of-the-box color ramps to symbolize your data. But I'd like to choose my colors manually to create a set of colors that make sense for my organization. So I'm going to show you how to do that with some suggested colors for each feature. To start with, building fill refers to building extent. So we can rename this to residential. We can then go ahead and change the color using the hex code FFCC99. We can also then go ahead and change the outline color using the hex code FF5500. And we can change the outline width to 1 and click apply. You can use any colors in your symbology. I'm simply showing an example of the symbology that you could use. So now we can see all of our buildings are shown in this orange color. Man-made fill refers to man-made structures that aren't roads and buildings. So this could be a road near a garage. I'm going to change this color to a light gray using the hex code E1, 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 and click apply. Next, it's mixed woodland fill, which is any woodland area, or simply just an area where there are multiple trees. So let's make this a darker green color with the hex code 728944. And we can rename this to woodland. Sticking with green areas, multi-surface fill predominantly refers to gardens, but this could also include private and communal gardens. So we're just going to rename it to gardens. And then we're going to go ahead and change the color. The hex code for this color is FFFFBE. Just a quick note here. If you would like to use pre-configured styling to symbolize your OS Mastermap data, check out our other video where we explain how you can deploy the OS Mastermap style sheet from GitHub. Click the link at the top of the screen now to watch this video, or if you'd like to refer to it later on, the link to the video can be found in the description of this one. And with that, let's get back to editing our symbology. Natural fill is any grassy area that isn't a garden. For example, grass in the middle of a roundabout, or open green spaces. So I'm going to change this color to CCFFCC. I'm also going to change the outline to a dark green using the hex code 00734C. Let's rename non-coniferous tree fill and then go ahead and change the color using the hex code 267300. Path fill refers to paths, so again, let's rename this to access paths and go ahead and change the color. The hex code we'll be using here is 9C9C9C. And the outline is going to be the hex 686868. Just remember, With all of these colors and names I'm choosing for the symbology, this is just an idea of how you could symbolize your data. But feel free to use other colors or layer names that make the most sense for your organization. Road or track fill refers to roads, so let's rename this and change the color using the hex code BA. Roadside man-made fill means footpaths, so I'll rename it to that and change the color to a dark gray using the hex code 8A. Roadside natural fill refers to grass verges and any grass on the roadside, so I can rename that to grass verges. And here we'll be changing the color to the hex code C7D7-9E. Now, as you can see, some of the layers refer to water features, for example, inland water fill. So we're just going to go ahead and change any water features to a blue color. Then for any layers that are not currently relevant to our data selection, we can simply fill them with no color. So I'm going to do this for features such as glasshouse fill and foreshore fill. I'm going to change the color of the footbridge fill to be a gray and also update the coniferous tree fill to be a dark green. Again, cliff fill can be no color. An archway and agricultural landfill can also have no color in this example. If these layers are relevant to you, please use your own symbology that suits your situation best. Now I'm just going to quickly clean up the rest of my symbology for the layers that I'm no longer using, again using that no fill. Step fill refers to any steps that you may find around your neighborhood, for example, along a path or a road. So I'm just going to make this a dark gray color. Finally, traffic calming fill refers to zebra or pelican crossings. So we can make this a hatched symbology with a black and white stripe. Change the angle to 90 degrees and increase the separation to make hatched black and white lines representing the ones that you'd see on one of these crossings on the road. So now that I've updated my symbology, we can see that all of the different features aren't grouped together in terms of their classification. So I can go ahead and open the symbology panel and simply start reshuffling my features within the layer so that we can position our green spaces, for example, beside each other. And the same with our water features, just so that our legend is clearer to understand. If you would like to make any of these layers their own independent layer in ArcGIS Online, you can simply filter the datasets and export them as a new feature layer. For the sake of this video, I'm going to keep all of my data grouped together as we see it on the screen. It's important to note, you may want to build on this data. For example, to identify details such as fence ownership or bushes. And to do this, you can work with your grounds maintenance team to survey in the field using Esri's mobile applications and further develop your data. And this is something that we'll be covering in a future video. Now that we can see all of your housing association's data color-coded and named correctly, but you may want to identify ownership of land that surrounds that which you own. So I'm going to show you how you can do this quickly. We're going to need to go back to our title info dataset. In order to find out who owns the land surrounding your housing association's land, we're going to create a buffer around our housing association's ownership. To do this, click the Analysis tab, then press Tools, and then search Buffer. Select the top option, and let's add our title info filtered dataset as the input feature layer. I suggest you set the buffer area between 50 and 100 meters, So let's go somewhere in the middle at 75 meters. For the side type, we want to exclude the input polygon from the buffer because we already have a layer of our ownership. So we just want to see the buffer around our area. Now we want to dissolve the buffers in our data into a single feature. And then let's run the tool. Now we've generated a buffer of 75 meters around our housing association's ownership. So we're now going to clip this to our original title info dataset and look at ownership within the buffer. To do this, I'm going to need to go back to the original title info dataset that we started with in the first video. Click Properties and delete the definition query currently in place, so now we can see the full dataset that we started with. Now using the clip tool, we're going to input title info as the input feature layer, and then have the filtered buffer as our clip feature. Give the output an appropriate name, and then you're good to run the tool. Let's unselect title info, the original dataset, and now we can see an extra buffer has been created around our housing ownership. And if we look at the symbology of this data and change it to unique values, we then want to change field 1 to proprietorship category 1. And as you can see, we can now see within the legend a list of other ownership surrounding our housing association's ownership. You can narrow these layers down and change the symbology as necessary, but you can now identify and explore land ownership around your area of interest. I'm just going to quickly make the outline of my ownership a darker colour so that we can distinguish between our housing association's ownership and surrounding ownership. And there you have it. We have visualised your housing association's assets using symbology and explored surrounding ownership for the housing association's land. As always, remember to save your work, so your work and your symbology is saved for next time you open the project. In the next video, we'll be sharing this data up to ArcGIS online and create a simple application for colleagues to use so they can navigate quickly to understand what land you are responsible for and gain a quick summary of asset information. See you next time.